Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Just taking a look here again at Solana, see what's going on. Perfectly swept this lower area of liquidation. You couldn't make this up, folks. Look at this, 182, that lower level. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but if I recall correctly from yesterday, there's a pretty significant chunk of liquidation at 182. It's like clockwork, folks. This is crazy. Anyways, we'll talk a little bit about the backend data here and kind of go from there, and just more so importantly, recognize best practice in situations like this, because this is not the coin you want to try to take along or buy the dip with. I'm only saying that in the simple sense that, if you're considering buying the dip with a high leverage play to 300, that's a bad call. If you're buying the dip from a spot bag perspective, that's a totally different story. 185, I've mentioned, is a decent area to consider because it's kind of one of our last lines of defense here. The price should continue higher if Bitcoin pulls its head from its ass. But if that doesn't happen, Bitcoin continues lower, Solana's going to dump right with it. Please recognize that. So this coin is not is no longer performing better than Bitcoin in the short-term timeframes. It was roughly a few days ago when we actually took our long, which we closed in a very small amount of profit just to kind of break even and walk away from it. But right now, at this point, there's no reason to consider taking a long position. It's just kind of considered a high risk. Once again, I'm just speaking from yesterday's analysis and a brief overview of what I've seen so far. This could very well change if you continue watching. We'll see at the end of this video if this is worth taking a trade with or not, or if it's something that's a viable option. But for right now, this doesn't look very pretty. Okay. All right. So all that being said, let's take a quick peek. Just quickly to congratulate our community members for some nice profits. We took a Bitcoin short a couple days ago, secured some profits yesterday at about 32%, if you will. So that was yesterday afternoon. That was a nice little play. Now again, just because we have a short position open with Bitcoin doesn't mean you can't still take longs with other coins or flip around. Maybe even consider hitting that reverse button. I never recommend that because it's a terrible way to trade, just based on the simple fact that you're going to pay a lot of fees for that. You're better off closing with limit orders. I talk about that in my trading academy. Feel free to watch that if you're part of our community. But let's go ahead and discuss this here. Last 12 hours, we can see we're kind of in the middle of this range. 190 and or 184 is that rough estimate of the higher and lower ranges. Let's take a look at the 7-day though, see if this is a bit different of a story, because the last 7 days has been kind of unique. If we look here, we can see, there's a lot more liquidation upwards, about 194 to 196. So this little range here is potential next step for Solana. So keep in mind, we could very well see that if Bitcoin reclaims 95,000. And that's the area that I'm really considering here for a possibility of a long. But once again, you want to be very cautious and careful when you take these kind of trades. So if you take a look here, oops, this is SCOI's chart. Apologize, this is Bitcoin's chart. Here we go. So take a look at this. We can see that 95,000 is that key level resistance from previous. Locally here as well, it's been retested 3 or 4 times and rejected. In fact, we shorted from 95,300 to the low 92K range, right? All that being said, though, the reason why I mention that is because we're currently range bound with Bitcoin. In order to break its range, it needs volume. But more importantly, if it does break its range, that could imply that we're back on track tentatively to the upside, because this descending trend line too for Bitcoin is important to recognize. So all that being said, we kind of look at that and recognize there's still a ton of liquidation on the downside. It's gonna feel like a false breakout if Bitcoin does reclaim that $95,000 range. Either way, if we're to consider taking a long, it'd be a tight long. We got to watch it close and not be like, we're going to take a long to 200,000, right? It's just not practical. It doesn't make any sense. For right now, the trend is down and you got to respect the trend. Having said that, we're going to kind of identify here roughly, just based on the moving average, this trend line here as well. And once again, I generally like to put a trend line concurrent with a 20-day SMA on the 4-hour time frame, because it gives me perspective on the overall sentiment. Generally, being above that is a positive sign. We're still below it, not the greatest, right? Same thing with Bitcoin too. It needs to be above its 20-day SMA. It's trying, but it isn't there yet. Okay, cool. Good preface there. I hope that makes sense, and now I described that. The whole point of me mentioning that is just because it's important to recognize. Now take a look at this here. This is important too. This is why in hindsight, taking along at 182 or considering a short position to that 182 mark was important. Look at that, $1.2 billion swept. Price turned around as if it never happened. That is uncanny how often this happens with liquidation, folks. Again, a lot of this is based on the simple fact that Bitcoin was pulling back, and we know that as well, right? Without Bitcoin pulling back, we may never have seen that. But again, liquidation levels happen all the time, and there's probably a very upset person this morning that got stopped out pretty hard right there. Either way you look at it here, liquidation delta is still getting overextended, so there is potential for a shift in momentum based on the fact that we've been maintaining this short momentum, or too many shorts are in the market right now for too long. Market makers can see that, they know that, and they want to wipe these shorts clean. They'll probably push the price action up to pump to that 192 to 195 range. I wouldn't be surprised by it. We take a look here at open interest here, see if this kind of can tell us anything. A lot of folks are still underwater right now. They're heavy at 198, 195, and 190. So again, that's just kind of the state of the market right now on the back end. So let's look at the daily, see where we're at. While this is not clean, we do have three black crows here essentially. And if you follow my videos and you've ever watched, it's really common in crypto for coins to move 72 hours in one direction, and then for there to be a doji candle and or a reversal from there. Okay. Now again, usually 3 black crows or 3 white soldiers implies a continuation. So I wouldn't be surprised if we keep going down. But for right now, we have this short-term bounce, likely off that 30 level on the RSI on the 4-hour. A lot of things that I kind of mentioned are things to look for, but not enough to warrant a long position, right? So it's just generally construed as a high-risk trade right now if you take it long. There's no other way around it. So let's see here now. What we want to look at would be the RSI. Let's pull this up here. Sorry. Once again, folks, I post playout charts on Twitter, Telegram, Discord, so just know I'll have that available here shortly. I'll clean up the charts. But for right now, when we take a look here, we're still under 50 on the RSI. Again, no reason to take a long position. Bitcoin, if you look here, is closer, but it's still under 50 as well, right? So it's no reason to consider a trade to the upside without confirmation, because the price is literally just pulling back. Now, again, a lot of folks can have success at buying the bottom. This is effectively a double bottom. You could even argue a triple bottom for Bitcoin on the larger time frames. A lot of reasons why the price may recover, but we lose the support at 90,000 for Bitcoin, and it's going to be, dump city. We're going to see that toilet flush, and a lot of problems are going to happen. So the same thing would happen with this coin too. In fact, we have a MACD divergence here on the daily time frame, kind of letting us know that further downside is probable. So once more, taking along right now is just going against the grain. Doesn't make a ton of sense. We need to break this trend here first, specifically with Bitcoin, and then Solana should follow suit. But just know Solana is paired very poorly with Bitcoin right now. It's not a good sign. All that being said, we're under the 20-day SMA. That's kind of the initial trend setter. We're below all moving averages. Never a situation which you want to take along. Hypothetically or beneficially, if we were to find a long position that was like a very comfortable, super conservative, you'd want to have a close above 203, okay? Because that would put us above all moving averages that are kind of lingering here in the low $200 mark, okay? Having said that, though, we're under 50 on the RSI, of course, still a bearish type of divergence. MACD's trying to converge, but still isn't. Stochastic swinging down. There is just a ton of reasons why it's not viable to take a trade. If we take a look here, let's actually zoom into the hourly. This is where things get a little more clear. And again, this is strictly hypothetical, but if you look at this golden pocket here so far, we can kind of see that the range, and we'll just go ahead and put this in yellow so you can kind of see it. We have a pretty obvious range here, okay? Now you got to keep in mind, this resistance here at about 193 is pretty strong. So closing above that is going to be imperative to be able to take a trade with confidence. If closing above that would also put us in a position where we break on the descending trend line, okay? We're shifting momentum. Until that happens, there's no reason to take a trade because this is a bearish type of pattern all day long. Generally speaking, when you see the price range like this, when it drives from the upside, it's going to continue lower. It's a bearish type of rectangle, and commonly they break down. Okay, this all in combination with Bitcoin exuding very, very similar qualities, it leads me to believe that we're in a position right now where it's not appropriate to take a long position. And honestly, it feels kind of late to take a short. I don't like taking a short into a support unless that support is retested bearishly as a back test. So hypothetically, what to look for here would be the price come down here and then try to do this, and that's when you enter a short, because then you're getting confirmation off that resistance, okay? So those are just things we're gonna be looking for. For right now, no trade is the best trade, and to anybody in my community who is wondering where all the signals are, they are not present because the market isn't really giving us good opportunities, okay? Now, I can't be everywhere at once. I'm sure there's plenty of missed opportunities. There always will be. But for the coins that I prefer to trade and just the overall price action that we're seeing right now, when you're in a transition, you do not trade. It's simple as that. A lot of folks kind of struggle with that just because they're addicted to hitting, clicking that buy button or that sell button. So try not to overtrade, folks. That's kind of the path to the dark side. And if you want to be broke as a joke here in the near future, feel free to continue doing that. If you want something better, join our Trading Academy community or signals group, kind of get some foundation and some knowledge. I have had some folks come over and be like, oh man, these signals are terrible. And I'm like, what? It's okay. It's your opinion. But a lot of times when you join and there's a series of bad trades, which we had to close 2 or 3 long positions recently, you got to recognize that that's part of trading. That's literally how it works. If you're not closing trades early and you're letting them go to liquidation, you have a bigger problem, right? Definitely don't try to save trades by adding to your margin. It's generally a slippery slope. Either way, I'll post our playout chart here on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord shortly. I look forward to working with you if you want to become a better trader. If not, that's cool too. Continue to watch as much as you can and learn what you can here. Thanks again to my Solana community and everyone else. That's just an amazing part of my life. Comment below, like, subscribe, follow. Deeply appreciate you. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.